This is the Ushl podcast.
By Donskoy for Gambrel, down the right side with a shot, he scores! Dylan Gambrell cuts the Blues lead in half. It's his first NHL goal.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome into the Ushl podcast, another edition featuring myself, Chris Treff, and Ben Gisselson. Dylan Gambrell is our guest today with the San Jose Sharks, a guy with a very prestigious junior career in the USHL, made long playoff runs in all 3 years. He was with Dubuque. Now he's with the Sharks, making a name for himself in San Jose. It was a good interview, and another player from the USHL just making a name for himself in the National Hockey League.
Success follows this kid. There's no doubt about it. You look at his time in Dubuque, where he had a number of runs over 3 seasons to the Clark Cup playoffs and deep into the Clark Cup playoffs that included a Clark Cup championship with the likes of Johnny Gaudreau, as well as Zemgus Girgensons, to name a few names from that star-studded team. Luke Karate, we can't refuse to bring him up, of course, with his capacity in the league now.
You're saying star-studded, you got to stay Luke Karate.
And a great Fighting Saints team and 3 great Fighting Saints teams when he was there during that time. And then, of course, great success at Denver. And now he's a part of a Sharks club that, although they seem to be in the middle of a little bit of a transformation into the new Sharks club, I think if you ask anybody on that team, they still think they're really relevant and that this year was maybe just a bit of an off year, and they're going to be right back when the season begins again for the 2020-21 season, whatever that looks like. They think they're contenders, and they very well might be, because there's some guys on that team that aren't seeming to go away. Jumbo Joe doesn't seem like he's going to taper off anytime soon, and there's plenty of talent on that roster, both young and old, and Gambrel's a big part of the young journey that team is making as well.
He was also born in Washington State, started playing roller hockey, and then eventually moved to Colorado. And it's a pretty cool story. It's one of the non-traditional stories we've seen so many through the USHL alums that we've talked to. So without further ado, let's get to it. Dylan Gambrell. Well, folks, now it's time to talk to our special guest and USHL alumni. He is a current forward for the San Jose Sharks. Please welcome to the Ushl podcast, Dylan Gambrell. Dylan, how are you doing today, my friend?
Great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem. So obviously we have some time to talk to you because we're in unprecedented times right now with everything that's going on. All of us are in the same boat. We're trying to find things to do and stay busy. So for you, where are you calling from, and what have you been doing during this little break here to stay busy and kill some time?
Currently back in Denver. I like to come back here during the summers and off season and train, like things like that. So, right now, like you said, just trying to stay busy, trying to stay in shape, little, at-home workouts, getting out and running when I can. But again, trying to stay safe and keep within the social distancing, rules, I guess.
I've been curious, Dylan, any roller rinks around you in Denver? I know, at least from the research that I could come up with prior to this interview, that you actually began as a roller hockey player. Have you been able to take the wheels out at all in Colorado to keep the skating legs in shape during this break?
I ordered a pair last night, so looking to get back into it. So I'm actually pretty excited about that.
What was that transition like? If you grew up playing roller hockey, and I know you're not the first guy to make this move to ice and then play in the NHL, but it's still a little bit of a rarity, you might say. So what was that transition like for you as a kid growing up in Washington State, going from roller hockey to ice, and then obviously flourishing?
I kind of did both equally, I guess. Ice hockey took over, but the roller hockey, it was just fun. It was around the neighborhood, the local kids, the kids that I played ice hockey with as well. But it was a lot of fun, and like I said, I'm excited to put the wheels back on and skate around a bit. But the transition, it's not too bad. I think there's a handful of guys that played roller hockey growing up, and they're in the same boat. But it's a lot of fun, and it's helpful in times like these.
Now, do you ever have any coaches that talked about the transition from ice hockey to roller hockey, and to the young kids that are growing up playing roller? What do you say to them to try to help them transition from roller to ice and kind of do the same thing as you, and players like Pat Maroon and other guys that started in roller and made the switch to ice?
I think you just got to jump into it. It's pretty similar in, the technique and things like that, but, it's there's not a huge difference. I think if you're looking to transition to ice, just kind of jump into it and, keep the rollerblades around. It's a lot of fun, but, yeah, just jump in, see how you like it, and then go from there.
So you jump onto the ice. You actually wind up playing for the Colorado Thunderbirds, a very well regarded program in Colorado. Was the USHL always on your radar? How did the USHL come into play for Dylan Gambrell?
Well, being from Seattle, where I grew up, I didn't know a ton about the USHL until, I was probably 13 or 14. It was, you always hear about the WHL. Being from around there, that's where, most kids want to go for the next step. So, but for me, I always wanted to go to college. And then luckily after I moved to Colorado, I got more exposure in the USHL. Was able to start talking to teams, start looking into the league, things like that. And, things just kind of went from there.
So when you got to Dubuque back in 2012, what was your first thoughts on the USHL? Was it everything you hoped for? Was there any surprises? How did that go?
It was great. I got to Dubuque. We had the training camp, things like that. Training camp went okay for me. And then, I went back to the Thunderbirds, and then I actually got called up for the Fall Classic there in Sioux City. And I made the team from there. And then, stuck with it ever since. But, it was a great experience. Great group of guys we had all 3 years I was there. The coaching staff was unbelievable. And I think, it goes to show from, coaches down to players, down to everybody in staff. It's a great developmental league, and it's, so many players that I was with and coaches and staff members moved on since then.
3 years you were in Dubuque, had a lot of success. We'll get to the Clark Cup championship you won with the Saints while you were there, but I want to talk about playing 3 years. It's something that around the hockey world, sometimes people frown upon those who spent 3 years in juniors because you say, well, they just weren't ready to go to college. They weren't ready to go to college. Clearly, it panned out for you in a big way now as a member of the Sharks, having success there in the NHL. For you, what was the difference between 2 years and 3 years, and where did you see your game grow the most in spending that extra time to make sure you were ready to go on to Denver?
I don't think there's ever really a rush to move on to the next level. This is just personal. Everybody's different. Everybody develops differently. But for me, I think it was helpful to stay 3 years. And, I think the first year I came in, I was still a kid. I was probably 170 some pounds. And, I had a lot of growing up too and a lot of growing physical. So, I think over the course of the 3 years I did that, I developed, physically, mentally, I grew up, but, by the time the third year was over, I felt I was ready to go.
I want to talk about some teammates, guys that you played with that have gone on to have some success. Matt Benning being one, Carson Kuhlman another. How in touch are you with those guys, or maybe other guys that you played with when you were playing with the Fighting Saints right now?
We keep in touch, and it's always really cool when we get to play against each other at the level we're at now. We'll meet before the games or after the games and chat and catch up and things like that. But it's always cool just to look back and have those memories of playing together and knowing that we came from the same spot. So it's always a lot of fun to chat with those guys.
Players you played against, there were a lot of dandies that you played against as well when you were in the league. You think about Kyle Connor in Youngstown, Brock Besser in Waterloo, just to name a few. All those guys now having big success like yourself in the NHL. Is there a player that stands out to you most that when you looked down the benches and saw that this number was coming over the boards, you thought, boy, this is going to be a tough shift? And maybe it was Besser, maybe it was Connor, but maybe it was someone else.
Yeah, I think those guys especially. you know, every time, Kyle Connor's on the ice, you kind of know. And it was the same thing in the USHL. He was a special player then, and I think he's a special player just as much now, and same with Brock. But, there's a bunch of guys that, they're the same way. Whenever you're on the ice with them, you look over and it's, I remember playing this guy, and like I said, it's cool, and at the same time, I think it makes things a little bit more competitive. So it's a lot of fun.
Dominic Toninato, Colorado Avalanche. He was on the Fargo Force when you guys played him in 2013 in the Clark Cup Finals. What do you remember most about that run, Dylan? Talking about getting there and then talking about winning it. What stands out in your mind when you think back about hoisting a trophy?
There was a few things, it's just, I think it was a special group, obviously, and I think just how close knit everyone was. We still talk to this day. We have, the same group chat we had as back then. Just, the Cowbell Cup, a little one we had there locally. And, I think just one thing after another, it was really cool just to be a part of that. And, as things went along, winning the first round and second round. And then, as you go along, you get a little bit more excited, a little more antsy, and then finally when we got to Fargo there and took care of business, it was a great feeling just to know that what you work for all year, kind of finally comes to fruition.
So putting all that together, the championship, your 3 years there, all the off-ice stuff, can you put into words where you developed most of the USHL? Where did you see your biggest growth, and maybe even off the ice as well?
Yeah, off the ice, I think I grew up a lot as a person, and I think I just matured. I was lucky. I had great billet families the whole time. I had great teammates. So there was a few of us that were there for 2 or 3 years together, and we kind of grew up together and went off to our respective colleges. But on the ice too, we had great coaches there that helped develop your skills, develop your game, and I think it's a great stepping stone, heading into college. And I think it's, if you're planning to go to college, I think that's that's probably your best route.
So speaking of college, what was it like to jump from the USHL to Denver? Obviously, it's a storied program, but what stood out most for you?
You're playing against a lot of the same players, so that kind of made everything a little bit easier for me because, there's so many. I think, my last 2 years in Dubuque, everyone, if not 2 or 3 guys had, Division I commitment. So you're playing against a lot of the same players. So I think that makes things a little bit easier. Besides that, it's just the USHL, it develops you. So, like I said, that's the next step is college. So it prepares you for everything you need, going into college.
I want to chat about the national championship, obviously. It seems like success follows you wherever you go, Dylan. That's a good thing. In 2017, your last year as a Pioneer, you and now Anaheim Duck Troy Terry set up the game-winning goal in that contest. Bring us back to that goal. And would you say at this point maybe that was one of your biggest hockey moments, not only that championship, but being a part of the goal that won that hockey game in the second period?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think, Jared Lukasevich, he takes the credit for that one, scoring a hat trick in one period. But, that was a special moment. That was something I'll never forget. That'll be a highlight forever. But, two really good teams going at it, in Minnesota, Duluth, and Denver. And, it could have been anyone's game there. But, fortunately, we won that one. And, I think Duluth went on to win the next 2 national championships. So I think we can call it even there.
But you were well and gone by that point, Dylan, so you didn't have a hand in it. So you can smile and look back and say you got the final say in your chapter, right?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
I want to talk about head coach Jim Montgomery. You obviously spent a lot of time with him. He was your head coach in Dubuque. He was your head coach in Denver. A lot of championships with him, a lot of years with him. We all know it's been documented what he's been dealing with away from the rink right now, and obviously the hockey world wishing him and his family his best. But as a coach, the player-coach bond that you had with Jim Montgomery, what has that been like for you, not only with Dubuque, but then with Denver?
It's been amazing. I can't thank Monty enough for what he's done for my career, on the ice as a person. He's a special person, and, he knows how to connect with his players. He knows how to develop his players. And, like I said, I can't thank him enough. We've had, luckily to have won 2 championships with him. And, everybody that's played for him, I think, has nothing but good things to say about him. But, we still communicate. I know he's doing well. His family's doing well. And, hopefully we'll see him out coaching again soon. But, we stay in touch. And, if I ever need anything on the ice, off the ice, he's there for me. So definitely a special bond there.
So it's 2016, NHL Draft Day. Dylan Gambrell selected by the San Jose Sharks in the 2nd round. What's the first word that comes to mind when you're describing that experience?
Surprise, I guess. It was an exciting day. We had family over, friends over. I had been, passed over twice the previous 2 drafts, and so this one, it was kind of exciting. We had, like I said, family, friends over, and then, just watching the TV. Didn't really have any idea of where or when I was going to go, or if I was going to go at all. But, it was a special moment to be able to share that with the family and friends.
So that's obviously very exciting. And, what do you say to those USHL kids that maybe got passed up last year or the year before that are going back in to hopefully have that same experience as you and finally, hear their name selected?
Yeah, I just say don't look into it too much, because, no matter what, you got to keep going. Even if you get drafted, you have to keep getting better. You have to keep developing. So, there's plenty of players that don't get drafted to go in as free agents, and they can go to, any team they want. So drafted or not drafted, you have to keep developing. You have to keep getting better every day. So, just keep your head down and keep working.
In that same vein, Dylan, what would 23-year-old Dylan Gambrell, now member of the San Jose Sharks, tell 17-year-old Dylan Gambrell just entering into the USHL at the time?
That's a tough one. Stay focused. Don't get discouraged. Like I just said, keep working every day. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs in the career. You gotta just roll with the punches and keep developing, keep having fun, keep enjoying the game, because at the end of the day, that's the most important part.
Speaking of enjoying things, it's a lot of hockey talk. I'm sure our fans are curious not just about who you are on the ice, but off the ice. When you don't have a hockey stick in your hand, what are your passions, Dylan?
I like fishing. There's a lot of lakes back in Seattle where I grew up. So, me and Dad will do that. And then besides that, a lot of golfing. Try to hang out with the friends and get on the course and try to get a little better around there.
What's your handicap?
That'll go undisclosed.
That's fair enough.
The secret is kept with us.
It's got to be better than mine. So.
Yeah, so you being a Washington guy from the Seattle area, how excited are you to see the new Seattle team come into the NHL? Obviously, you're still a Shark, so when they play against you, it's going to be all Sharks. But, the new Seattle team, what are your thoughts on that? How excited are you?
Really excited. I think, Seattle is ready for an NHL team, and I'm glad that they finally got it. The fan base is going to be great. I think you can see that with the Seattle Thunderbirds there. I think they sell out a lot, most games. So it'll be great for youth hockey, and, I'm excited for it.
Now, do you have any thoughts on what the nickname should be?
I don't know. I like the crack, and I've heard that one getting floated around, but Steelhead Kraken.
I'm Kraken. I think that's cutting edge. It's new. No one else has called that. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I like that one too.
So being a Seattle guy, are you a fan of obviously any of the other Seattle teams, the Seahawks, the Mariners, any of that?
Yeah, both, but mostly a Seahawks fan. Um, I actually just started getting into football a few years ago, but that's the team that I root for.
So big question here. Should Marshawn have gotten the ball in the Super Bowl?
Oh God, yes. Come on. Oh, that's a tough one to talk about.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't mean to bring up any post memories about that are going to come back to haunt you.
That's all right. That's all right.
Last thing I wanted to wrap up with is you've gotten to a point in your hockey career now where there are literally thousands and thousands of kids who want to be in your shoes. You had a long journey to get there. You traveled a lot, played a lot of different places. Like you said, rolled to roll with. Has there been a hungry to likely do more in the NHL and grow your role, continue to expand? But was there a moment for you where you kind of sat down and went, all this work, all the blood, sweat, and tears, I'm here, and I'm proud of that?
I don't know. Maybe I think the day I got drafted, there was a little bit of that. It was an exciting day. I think just because the family was there and finally seeing, being able to see my name on the screen was pretty exciting. But then, right after, it's like, here we go. That's the easy part's over. Now the hard work starts. So, still I got a lot of work to do. I got to, continue to grow and continue to get better. So, hopefully just keep working.
The never satisfied attitude. That's what gets it done. Well, Dylan, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for the time. I can't wait to see how your career progresses here as you continue to get more and more comfortable in the NHL. So thank you for this.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
As always, big thanks to Dylan for joining us. Great to have another perspective and another different routes to get to the National Hockey League. He spent the majority of his career so far in the American Hockey League, but now he's finding himself with the San Jose Sharks. And like we talked about with Mayhew and Annis earlier in the week, expect this guy to be in the NHL and be in the NHL being productive for a long time.
And you mentioned alternative routes. You brought up the roller hockey background, and there's nothing that perks up Chris Treff's ears more than a roller hockey guy. So I know, not that I didn't enjoy that one, but I know when we get roller guys on, you really perk up, and it's always good to see from my end.
Very well documented my bias towards roller hockey guys, to say the least. So yeah, you're not mistaken there.
I got a great roller hockey story. I played in one tournament. All I did growing up was just on the street with buddies. Yeah. I played in a Narch tournament in Minneapolis in St. Paul at the Xcel Energy Center. They took all the flooring out, put in the sport court. It was a whole big extravaganza. Our team was loaded. Anders Lee was on our team. Nick Leddy was on our team. I'm trying to think of some of the other guys. That's enough right there. I mean, geez, those are two high-end players right there. We had a great ice hockey team. Yeah. We played a bunch of California teams and Florida teams, and we got steamrolled. I mean, steamrolled. Now, Nick Leddy and Anders Lee, I think, scored all of our goals. The rest of us were just out there floundering. But, I mean, I couldn't believe how different the game felt. I vividly remember that, thinking, this is a completely different game. The no offsides, like it threw us all for a loop. That was my one story. I think we scored 2 goals in the tournament. We got mercy ruled, I think, 2 or 3 times. It was just a nightmare. But you know what? I'm happy I did it, even though we got crushed.
Well, you know what? There's actually Narch has been releasing some pictures from that tournament. Obviously, they highlight Leddy and Lee. So I'm going to go back and see if I can maybe find you getting some minuses there. But
I was going to say, find me chasing somebody on the back of the net.
People don't understand. There's so many times where ice hockey guys go and play roller and they've never played before and they're just lost. Like, they have great shots. So, like, if they get it in the slot, they're going to rip it top shelf, bar down every time because that puck's light and you can rip it. But, like, they can't skate. A roller hockey team will come up, and if they don't like their breakout, they'll just turn and fire it back in their own end and start over. It's such a different game, and
we're dumping pucks in, chipping. He's like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah. It's just funny. Roller hockey guys get a kick out of it. Like, you can have NHLers and they've never played roller before, and they're lost and not even in the pro division. They're lost in other divisions. It's crazy. It's just when people disrespect on roller hockey, it really gets to me. It's not because I love roller hockey so much. It's simply because you don't understand it. You don't know how fun it is, and you don't realize that these guys are so skilled because there's less checking. It's more about finesse and how good of a hockey player you are as opposed to being the tough guy, because there's a lot of guys that are like Jonathan Taves, a great hockey player, but he's very skilled, but he's also so mentally tough, and he's so rugged, and he can go in the corners and get pucks. That's what makes him a great ice hockey player. Whereas there's roller hockey players that are just like, it's just a bunch of Patrick Kanes out there to stick along with the Blackhawks line. So there's my roller hockey rant that maybe no one cares about, but you brought it up.
I care, Chris.
All right.
I care.
That's all I need.
Yeah.
That's all I need. My fellow roller hockey people listening and you. So
also can't forget to thank Sharks PR guy Kyle Stutzel for setting that up for us. Always a pleasure working with the Sharks organization. So thank you, Kyle.
Well, thanks to Dylan Gambrell. Thanks to you. Thanks to Brett Meskey for all the hard work behind the scenes. I'm Chris Treft, and this was the Ushl Podcast.
This is the Ushl Podcast.